This young Pimp C, I'm fucking with Primo. It's going down, baby. Won't make us loud, my production is tight. We run shit. I ain't playing with.
Втор семинар за коноп во кино Милениум со наслов Канабис-теорија и пракса, на кој зедоа учество Лумир Хануш, Пол Хорнби и Рик Симсон, каде се зборуваше за македонскиот коноп и неговиот потенцијал да лечи болни од епилепсија заради високата концентрација на CBD во него. Киносалата беше исполнета со луѓе од сите генерации.
Организиран од страна на Зелена алтернатива. Некои од вас беа присутни и минатата година, кога се одржа првиот семинар со наслов Демистификација на канабисот. Оваа година семинарот ќе обработува тема, теорија и пракса, каде што освен за бенефитот на користењето на канабисот во медицински цели, ќе стане збори за македонскиот див коноп. Нашите почитувани гости, кои ќе ги чуете со нивните предавања, се во врвот на научната сфера на темата за корисноста на канабисот во медицински цели. На почетокот ќе ни се обрати Рик Симсон, кој за жал овој пат не можеше да биде лично присутен во Скопје, како минатата година, но ќе го чуеме и видиме преку скајп со неговите пораки. Рик Симсон е можеби најпознатото име во однос на промоцијата на медицинските ефекти на маслото добиено од цветовите на билката канабис во светот. Приказната за неговата борба со ракот на кожа и пронаоѓањето на подзаборавениот метод на екстракција на маслото од канабис, која тој несебично, без никаква парична надокнада, ја подели со светот на сите ни е позната. Потоа, ќе го чуеме предавањето на професорот Лумир Хануш, чешки доктор на науки во фармаколошка хемија и истражувач на канабисот, кој своите истражувања со оваа билка ги има започнато 1970 година. Значи полни 45 години на ова поле. Во почетокот на медицинскиот факултет при Палачки универзитетот во Чешка, во трајање од 20 години, а потоа следните години на Хибру универзитетот во Ерусалим, по покана на Рафаел Мекулан, човекот кој прв ја има изолирано ТХЦ активната состојка на канабисот. Во своите истражувања, професорот Хануш заедно со Вилијам Дивейн ја имаат први изолирано и опишано структурата на анандаминот, кој е всушност ендоген канабиноиден неуротрансмитер. По него ќе следи со своје излагање доктор Пол Хорнби, кој има дипломирано зоологија, магистрирано биохемија, а докторирано патологија. По неговиот студиски престој во Индија се заинтересирува за хербалните, тоест растителни препарати и лекови во употреба илјадници години. По враќањето во Канада во 1988 го основа Hedron Analytical, фирма која прави анализи и контрола на квалитет на бизниси кои работат со растителни препарати, а воедно врши и испитувања за канадскиот сојузен оддел за подобрување на здравјето. На полето на примената на канабис во медицината работи скоро 17 години со пациенти диагностицирани со мултиплекс склероза, епилепсија, хронична болка и канцер. Досега има направено преку 15.000 анализи на канабис. Автор е на бројни студии за примената на канабисот во медицината. По него ќе следи 37 годишниот господин Хуанито Луксетич, кој е диагностициран со мултиплекс склероза 2008 година, а првите симптоми ги чувствува на 16 години во 94-та. По безуспешната примена на конвенционалната медицина, почнува да испробува разни природни методи. Пред 4 години доаѓа во контакт со маслото на Рик Симсон и смета дека со тоа си го спасил собствениот живот. Набрку потоа го запознава професорот Хануш, кој со својата стручност и искуство го усмерува кон сортата на канабис, која најмногу ќе му помогне. Ќе можете да го чуете личното сведоштво и искуство на Хуанито Луксетич. На крајот од предавањата ќе ви биде овозможено да поставувате прашања на нашите гости, па затоа ќе ве замолам да останете до самиот крај. Помеѓу секое излагање ќе имаме кратки паузи од 10 минути. Семинарот може да започне, предлагам да го проследиме Рик Симсон.
The name of the lecture that I intend to give is called Cannabis as a Medicine. Let's face the facts. I am very happy that you have taken the time to be here with us today, and I am sure that what you will learn from this lecture concerning the cannabis hemp plant will prove to be of great importance to your health and well-being in the future. Since many of you are already aware that I am the man who rediscovered the true healing powers of extracts which can be produced from medicinal varieties of the cannabis plant, and for over a decade I have been spreading this knowledge throughout the world, I don't believe that any further explanation about my activities should be required. And I hope that you will be able to understand the desperate need which we now have for the use of these extracts that I refer to as being hemp oil, and why we must stand together to bring all of these restrictions against this plant's medicinal use to an end. For the last 12 years, I have been providing the public with the knowledge they require to deal with their medical problems in a rational, harmless, non-addictive way. In addition, I used to supply patients with these life-saving extracts at no cost. But in 2009, manipulation on the part of the Canadian government brought a halt to my activities, and since that time, this has made it impossible for me to supply their needs any longer. In 2004, we put up the phoenixtears.ca website, and on this site, I told the whole world how they could produce and use extracts from medicinal varieties of the cannabis hemp plant to heal themselves. Then, in early 2008, I brought up the documentary Run from the Cure, produced by Christian Lorette, which has now been viewed by vast numbers of people everywhere. Countless individuals have now been exposed to this information, and they have used what they have learned to cure or control many serious life-threatening conditions in a much more harmless and effective way than anything our current medical systems had to offer. Even though myself and countless others have now used extracts produced from the cannabis hemp plant to cure or control many different serious medical conditions, such as cancer, most governments are still trying to tell us that there are no studies to back these claims, and until this research is done, the findings we have all reported should be ignored. So it appears that all the medical records these patients have, which indicates that indeed they were suffering from all these different life-threatening conditions, means nothing to those who for some reason or another continue to demand that research into this subject be conducted their way, and who seem to feel that their opinions should outweigh common sense. If anyone has a documented medical condition which was brought under control or even cured with the use of cannabis extracts, then why would this not be looked upon as being evidence that these extracts actually do have amazing healing abilities? I mean, after all, why did all these people suddenly find relief from the severe medical disorders they had in some cases suffered with for many years? Did all these debilitating and deadly medical problems just suddenly disappear? Or could it have been the cannabis extracts that all these patients reported they had used, which actually solved their medical difficulties? In my world, 2 + 2 = 4, and if all this were not true, then why are so many now singing the praises of the healing abilities of these extracts? Do we really need to wait until people in lab coats finally get around to proving what so many of us already know to be a fact? And why are we allowing patients who are in dire need of this medication to go without and die needlessly when their suffering can be eased and their lives can be saved in such a simple manner? I don't know about the general public, but I, for one, have had more than enough of all this government corruption and double talk. When we have a proven, harmless, non-addictive natural medication at our disposal, it could only be considered to be nothing more than an act of genocide, which is a crime of the highest order, to hold its use back, simply because it does not as yet meet the standards of some among us who seem to feel no compassion towards their fellow man. If it was a loved one of your own who was dying and your government refused to allow this medication to be used to save their life, would you not look at what they are doing as being a crime? Or would you simply bow to your government's wishes and say nothing? With the vast body of evidence which currently exists, proving the medical effectiveness of the cannabinoids these extracts contain in the treatment of basically all medical conditions, one would think that if this were really the case, and indeed this evidence truly existed, then governments and those in control would have done something about this quite some time ago. Although we cannot blame the governments of today for the corruption and crimes that governments of the past have committed against us, we should at least be able to expect that those who represent us at the present time would now do everything in their power to right the wrong which has been done. Yet in reality, this evidence does exist, and to date, our current governments have done little or nothing to help bring this life-saving medication into widespread medicinal use. So why are most governments behaving so irresponsibly towards the health and well-being of those they are supposed to be representing? And why are they still upholding absurd laws against the free growing and use of the most medicinal and useful plant on earth? When now it is commonly known that these laws and restrictions, which were all based on nothing more than propaganda and lies. I believe in law and order, and I do support laws if they are just. But these restrictions against the free use of cannabis to heal ourselves makes no sense to me whatsoever. The answer to why this is still taking place is simple. Those who represent us were exposed to the same falsehoods about this plant that we were. And this has left both politicians and the general public in a very confused state about this issue. Even to this day, there are still many individuals and organizations who are trying to do their utmost to keep the water muddy surrounding this subject so the public will be unable to see the simple truth for themselves. Most politicians, much like the rest of us, can be fooled and manipulated quite easily too. And once the lies and propaganda they were exposed to about this plant became embedded in their beliefs, and they were still hearing negative reports concerning cannabis, this made it easy for them to reject or ignore all these counterclaims about this plant's real medicinal virtues, since those in authority were still actually being led to believe that cannabis was harmful in some way. When you do not hold a position of authority, your opinions can do little damage to anyone. But if you represent the public, your opinions and actions must be based on real facts, which have been honestly proven, and not on lies and propaganda about this plant, which those who are currently governing us had heard over the years without even questioning the false information they had been exposed to.
Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Hornby. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I've been studying the medicinal properties of the cannabis plant for the last 17 years. I consider it to be the most beneficial, useful plant on the planet, and my cause is about utilizing the cannabis plant for its full potential. I'm talking about the value of cannabidiol, CBD, that comes from the hemp plant that grows wild here in Macedonia. Yes, it is very useful as a medicine, that plant, but it's illegal to harvest, I understand. Epilepsy, inflammation, pain, cancer, mental disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar, I can go on and on. It's extremely useful as a medicine. It's growing wild here in Macedonia. It should be utilized for its worth. Those three things I just mentioned, inflammation, seizure disorder, and pain, the world market for those medicines is around $190 billion. The hemp plant can be used for all of those conditions, you could export it to the world and bring this money into Macedonia by utilizing that wild hemp plant. Cannabis is the most useful plant on the planet, and it's been banned for roughly 90 years. The reason for that is because at the turn of the century, particularly in the United States of America, they were developing the petroleum industry, the pharmaceutical industry came around, nylon was invented, pulp and paper, and those industrialists didn't want the competition with cannabis, so they made it illegal. If we indeed utilize the cannabis plant for all of those things, food, pulp and paper, petroleum, medicine, we would have an industrial revolution. It would mean a complete change in everything.
And healthier environment.
Yes, indeed. The food from the hemp seed is the most nutritious food you can get naturally from anywhere. The omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids, the vitamins, the minerals that are in the hemp plant are enough to feed us all. And it's just I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And it's the safest, it's a very safe plant. There's never been a recorded death from anybody taking cannabis. It can't kill you. If it was dangerous, my whole family, including the dog, would be dead. Changing is before the courts. On October 19th, we have our federal election. We have a choice of 3 different prime ministers. If we can kick the old one out, we will move much more ahead in the research on cannabis because he's against it. And there's Justin Trudeau, the son of Canada's former Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, will legalize cannabis if he's elected. The other one will decriminalize it. The one that's in power now will make it illegal or turn it over to corporations. And my experience with cannabis over the years is that it's a people's plant, not a politician's plant. The people know what to do with the plant, the politicians have no idea. If you'll pardon my expression, Europe has its head up its butt about THC. They're recommending parts per million amounts of THC because they're worried about us getting high. That's the excuse, that if there's THC there, it's psychoactive. The hemp plant you cannot get high from. Even if you extract it, the amount of CBD is so much greater than the amount of THC. CBD buffers the effect of THC. It takes the psychosis or the high out of cannabis. That's why your kids aren't going in and stealing flowers from the hemp plant and selling it or smoking it because they won't get high. They've already figured that out. Yeah. But the value of the extracted hemp flower for epilepsy, we did work in Slovenia that we just presented it at the Italian conference, the IACM conference for 2015 in Sestri Levante, Italy last week. Of 10 children that we observed using cannabis extract, 7 of the 10 no longer have epileptic seizures. They're gone. They continue to take the extract, but the seizures are gone. One of them reduced 50%, the other 70%. 7 out of 10 have no more seizures. The other 2 significantly reduced, and the 10th one quit the study. It doesn't work for everybody. We had 70% success rate. Normally around 80% will respond favorably. The point that Dr. Hannoush often makes is that this is not a panacea. It doesn't work for all, but it works for most. And
The percentage is good.
Hmm?
The percentage is good.
Yes, yes, it's much better than pharmaceutical drugs for treating epilepsy. This is using natural extract from the hemp plant. It's not, when I say high CBD, low THC, I mean all the other cannabinoids are there too. There's roughly 140 cannabinoids. Terpenoids are there too. All of them together is what we call the entourage effect. What the pharmaceutical industry does is they synthesize magic bullet compounds that go into a biological system that will treat one symptom, but they will cause many side effects, so you have to take other pills to counteract the side effects. Cannabis will treat cancer, it'll treat the pain, it'll treat the mood, the emotion from having cancer. It treats it all with one natural medicine that has virtually no side effect. We've had some success with autistic children, again using cannabidiol. If they don't respond to cannabidiol, we would up the THC in their medicine, in their mix, attempting to get a response. It's the mixture, the ratio of THC to CBD. A 2-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC has been shown to be effective for mood, for that type of brain injury or non-responsive, non-cognitive type effect. The children I just mentioned with epileptic seizures, the 7 out of 10, were all children that had brain damage from birth. It's called encephalopathy or a palsy, and that type of brain damage will lead to epileptic seizures. We not only saw a reduction in seizures, but better mood, better cognitive ability, better communication with parents. My reward in all of this business comes from the thank you for changing my child's life and mine by removing those seizures. Being a parent of a child with epilepsy or autism can be extremely difficult, and if we can help the child, we help the whole family. And I don't make money from this. I get the thank you and the pat on the back. And this is why I'm here in the Balkans, because we've had success with epileptic and encephaloptic children. In Canada, it's illegal to harvest the hemp flower at this time. We're allowed to have high THC. If you're caught harvesting the hemp flower, you can do 10 years in jail. That's because of our Prime Minister, who dances on the strings of the pharmaceutical industry. Do you understand? Yes.
This young Pimp C, I'm fucking with Primo. It's going down, baby. Won't make us loud and my production is tight.